This happened back in 2005, when I was 18 years old, and it's one of those memories that never fades no matter how many years stack up on top of it. I was living in Uvalde, Texas at the time, in a low-income neighborhood that sat flat and quiet under the sun, the kind of place where everything felt worn down but familiar. Most of the houses looked like they'd been built decades ago and then forgotten. Chain-link fences, dry yards, dogs barking at nothing. Nights so quiet you could hear the wind scraping across empty lots. I was enrolled in the local community college because that was all my parents could afford. I didn't mind it. It felt temporary, like a waiting room for a life that hadn't started yet. One of my closest friends from high school, Andrew, had moved to San Antonio to attend San Antonio College. He lived in a small apartment just outside the city with a roommate, and his girlfriend stayed over more often than not. San Antonio was only about an hour and a half away, so I drove out there pretty frequently to crash on his couch, drink cheap liquor, and pretend we were already adults. That weekend Andrew invited me to come stay over. I remember packing light and climbing into my 1995 Toyota pickup truck. Calling it trusty would have been generous. The thing barely ran, the paint was sun-bleached, and the gas gauge didn't work at all. I had a system. Every time I filled up, I reset the trip meter and just guessed how far I could go before refueling. It had worked so far. I took Route 90, a long, straight stretch of highway that cut through empty land and scrub brush like a scar. I left around 3 in the afternoon on Friday. No traffic, just heat shimmering off the asphalt and the low hum of tires against the road. I got to Andrew's place, with time to spare. His girlfriend wouldn't arrive until the next day, so that night was ours. We stopped at a liquor store, grabbed cheap bottles, drank at his apartment with his roommate, then headed to a dive bar that didn't ask many questions about IDs. The music was loud, the lights were dim, and everyone smelled like spilled beer.
We stumbled back to the apartment around 2 in the morning after getting food. I crashed on the couch and slept hard. The next day should have been the same. Drinking, joking, killing time. But once Andrew's girlfriend showed up, the energy shifted. They argued constantly, and as the day dragged on and the alcohol piled up, the tension thickened. By nightfall, she was yelling at him openly, right in front of me. It was uncomfortable, embarrassing. The kind of situation where you suddenly feel like an unwanted witness.
I barely drank that night. Something in my gut felt off. I decided it was better to just head home. I said my goodbyes and walked out into the warm Texas night. I don't remember checking the time, but it had to be close to midnight. Route 90 was practically empty at that hour, and I drove fast, letting the dark swallow the road ahead of me. That's when the engine sputtered, just for a second at first, enough to make my stomach drop. Then it happened again, and then the realization hit me all at once. I hadn't filled up the tank. I slowed down, hoping I could coast just a little farther, but it was already too late. The engine coughed, shuddered, and died completely. I guided the truck onto the shoulder and sat there in silence, staring at the dashboard. I tried starting it again. Nothing. I pulled out my phone. No signal. I turned on my hazard lights and waited. Minutes passed. Then, more minutes. When headlights finally appeared in the distance, I stepped out and waved my arms. The car sped past without slowing down. Another 10 minutes went by. Another car. Same thing. Eventually, exhaustion overtook anxiety. I climbed back into my truck, shut off everything to save the battery, reclined the seat, and tried to sleep. Cars passed occasionally, but not often enough to feel hopeful. I was just starting to drift off when I heard it. A car door closing. I sat up instantly. In my rearview mirror, I saw a large pickup truck pulled up behind me. Its headlights were off. I couldn't see anyone inside.
I got out and called out. Hello? No answer. I walked closer to the truck. Empty. I scanned the tree line beside the road, half expecting someone to step out. Nothing moved. The night felt too still, like it was holding its breath.
I returned to my truck and locked the door. That's when there was a sudden tap on my window. I nearly jumped out of my skin.
A man stood there, leaning down, his face partially lit by the glow of my dashboard. He was smiling. "Hey, buddy," he said. "Need a hand?"
I cracked the window and told him I ran out of gas. That's quite the predicament, he replied. Step out and give me a hand with this real quick.
I assumed he meant a gas can. I stepped out of the truck. The smile never left his face as he looked down at me. "I need you to empty your pockets," he said calmly.
Then instinct kicked in. I ran. I bolted toward the trees, branches tearing at my arms, gravel biting into my shoes. I glanced back and saw him chasing me, fast and silent. I zigzagged through the brush until my lungs burned, then dropped behind a thick tree and forced myself to stay still. His footsteps came closer. "I'll kill you," he said aloud, his voice low and steady. I didn't move. I stayed there until dawn.